On this week's episode, there's no end in sight for the writer's strike and its effects on the local film industry. Boston boys Matt Damon and Casey Affleck are back filming in the Boston region, a special interview coming up. Pedro Pascal gearing up for Gladiator 2, and the weather is heating up, but casting calls seem to be cooling off. This is The Hub on Hollywood. I'm James.
I'm Jamie. Let's dive into it. It's rough.
Let's go. All right, Jamie. First off, I want to start by saying Happy Mother's Day.
Woo! Thank you so much. Yay! It's Happy Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all of you nerdy moms out there who love movies just as much as we do. And your moms and everyone else who's not a mom, your mom, and, happy Mother's Day out there. Isn't Die Hard a Mother's Day movie? Or one of the Die Hards?
Die Hard is not a Mother's Day story movie,
no,
I don't think.
I know people say it's like a Christmas movie, but wasn't there one that was like Mother's Day? I'm getting
maybe Die Hard number 5, but I don't think 1, 2, or 3 have any mother relation. I was going to ask you, does any other I guess aside from Die Hard, does any other movie stick out in your mind when you think of Mother's Day? I know that there's a lot of mother-daughter themed movies like Lady Bird. There's The Blind Side is coming up in some of these search results. Gonna have that mother figure popping up.
Well, I think it's more what reminds me of like Mother's Day and mothers is just rom-coms. It's just like sappy, ridiculous, romantic movies that you can watch with your mom. And so I think I go like it reminds me more in that direction than anything else. So what sappy, fun, silly movie are you going to be watching with your mom this weekend? Let us
Freaky
know.
Friday. Freaky Friday's a fun mother-daughter one with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. Also, one thing that just came out recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once. At the heart of it, it's a story about a mother and her daughter trying to build these bonds that have been, stretched thin through various reasons. So those are some good. I'd recommend either one of those two films for this Mother's Day.
Oh my gosh, yes, and Everywhere, Anywhere, All at Once. Not only a great title, not only a good movie, a perfect representation of what it's like to be a mom. We're anywhere, everywhere, all at once, doing everything for everybody. So, yeah. That makes sense.
That's actually a really good representation. Good catch on that. Yeah, that is perfect description of what being a mom is like. So, shout out to the moms out there. For my mom, for my wife, who is this is her first Mother's Day.
I know.
And so of course, we're trying to spoil everybody.
A very special happy first Mother's Day to your wife, and congratulations to the best of you. And you know what else we should be getting our mothers on Mother's Day, especially those who are in the film industry?
What?
Some work, okay? And some pay and some money and, maybe a deal. This writer's strike, the Writers Guild of America, does not seem to be ending anytime soon. Obviously the late night shows were the first to go that have gone dark. A number of other productions are slowing down, and it's creating a ripple effect from Hollywood West to over here in Hollywood East.
Yeah, so this is going into week number 2. Currently, right now, in Hollywood West, there are thousands of members with the Writers Guild of America who are striking and picketing actually outside Universal Studios, the Disney and Warner Brothers studio lots in Burbank, as well as Paramount Studios in Hollywood. So you're going to be seeing a lot of that in the news. Thousands of writers out there, again, just pretty much demanding a fair wage. And also a big thing that is the result of streaming services, or the rise of streaming services, is the lack of royalties. Like back in the day, you would get these royalty checks where your work, when it shows up on TV again, and it goes into syndication, you get a little chunk of that change. However, with these streaming services, one, not only is that gone, but two, the like Disney, Netflix, or Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, they're very hush hush and secretive with how much money these films and shows make that are made for the streaming services, which is then hard to negotiate, how much you should be getting paid. So it's tough all the way around.
It's shady all the way around. I mean, the streaming services exploded so quickly, especially during the pandemic, when everyone was trapped at home. And, it went from you got to pay this money, and you've only got Netflix, to you've got so many options. You've got infinite, variety of streaming services, and such a demand for content, and such a huge, wheel turning on and pumping out all of these shows and productions and movies. I think that it's been hard for the industry and the unions to keep up and to write things the way that they kind of ought to be. And a lot of these studios have been taking advantage of that, and there've been shady practices therein. So we'll see. We hope that a lot of this gets ironed out soon, because it's affecting people's bottom line right here in New England.
Over here too, seemingly. Yeah,
we know of at least one production that was supposed to be getting underway at Marina Studios in Quincy. They shot, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and tons of other productions have been shot there. There was one in particular that was supposed to be getting underway in the next 2 weeks. That has now been put off, and there's just so much uncertainty associated with what's going on. One of the big prop houses here in New England that serves the film industry, one of the biggest, it's called Westerman Equipment, Westerman House. They provide a lot of the props for the movies and shows. They're saying that they're uncertain as to what's going to be going on. Nobody wants to start something if they don't know the end game, is what Dan Diaz of Westerman Equipment said in one interview. So a lot of uncertainty, some productions. It was set to be a really booming year this year, James. So we're not sure who's going to be filming on time. We're not sure exactly how many productions are going to be held back. And it depends on whether or not they have everything written. For some shows that they looked ahead, they saw that this was coming down the line, that this was a possibility. Shows like The Mandalorian, for example, they have the whole next season written so that they can go ahead and shoot it. And there's a couple of films and television shows here locally that presumably have done the same thing. We've got The Perfect Couple starring Nicole Kidman, which is a limited series that continues filming on Cape Cod. So there are still casting calls for that, and jobs there for the local talent and local filmmakers, which is great. And the other one is The Instigators, right?
Yeah, that's one thing that's not affected by the writer's strike at this moment. It's midway through production here in the Boston region. We've seen them filming in the North End. We've seen them down in Quincy, and we saw them most recently back in Quincy, this time at the beach. And I actually spoke with the WBZ News Radio's Jim McKay, who got a look at one of the scenes being shot, and it was fun because apparently it is a winter scene where there's supposed to be snow and, a chill in the air. However, as you know, right now in Massachusetts, it's spring and the weather is heating up. And so it made for quite the interesting shoot. And so let's just get right into this interview with Jim McKay, with WBZ News Radio's reporter, about what they shot over at Wollaston Beach most recently. Hollywood is here in the Boston region. Now, we are already known as Hollywood East, but we have some big-time stars who are originally from the area back home to film their latest movie, The Instigators. It follows two robbers who must go on the run with the help of one of their therapists after a theft goes wrong. WBZ News Radio's Jim McKay was there to see the action at their latest filming location in Quincy. Jim, thank you so much for joining us on The Hub on Hollywood.
James, no problem. Good to see you, man.
So tell me really quick, what was the vibe? Because I understand that the shooting for this latest scene was at Wollaston Beach. We saw the guys, Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, in the North End already. We've seen them in other parts of Quincy as well. What was the vibe? Was there a crowd?
Well, so here's how it played out for me. I was going through just a regular morning, as we do in the news radio business, covering our stories, and we don't know which from each day to the next what we're going to be doing. And I was actually on my way home because I live in North Weymouth, and for anyone not familiar with Greater Boston, it's right down the street from Wollaston Beach, essentially just south of Boston. And I drove by the movie set, And I had not seen the equipment out there because that same road I come up in the morning, early mornings when I come into the studio. I didn't see it set up on my ride in, so I wasn't aware of it, but I passed it on the way back and I was like, oh man, they're going to be filming here today. And I was technically off the clock, but I just, my reporter instincts was like, you know what, let me do a U-turn and go check this out. And I did, and I was so glad I did because, so I parked like half a mile of where they had everything cut off, and I walked up, and yeah, James, there was probably about 30 to 40 people there. And the craziest thing was, you know, you sometimes go to these movie shoots and, you know, they're in those like honey wagon trailers the whole time. They may pop out for a second or two to film one little thing and then go back or get taken off. But Matt Damon and Casey Affleck were right there on the main drag. They were right across the street from the Clam Box, which is this legendary seafood restaurant on the South Shore. And it was kind of wild. I hadn't been on a movie set like that since... when I was working in New York, I lived in a neighborhood in Brooklyn called Sunset Park, and I don't know if you know the Tracy Morgan show, The Last OG on TBS. Well, they filmed that in my neighborhood. And so they were out there every day. So I didn't get a whole lot to see what they were doing because I'm busy myself, but I hadn't been on a movie set like that in a while. So it was wild. When I walked up and there they were right across the street, and it was a little bit of a distant look, but I also had my nice Canon point and shoot camera, so I was getting real nice shots of them. But it was wild, and people were very shocked. It was kind of the same thing. They were like, I didn't know they were just going to be right across the street and we could watch them. So it was very cool.
Yeah, I was going to say that you actually got, I think, the best pictures of the day. We'll send people to your Twitter account. What is your Twitter? It's at Jim McKay?
It's at Jim McKay on air, and that's MACKAY. But they did a great job also on WBZNewsRadio.com, and if you scroll down to our news section, you'll be able to find the link there. There was a nice write-up. But yeah, it was just simple, James, as you know cameras very well yourself. I know you're a talented photog. I mean, there were pretty easy shots. I mean, I just had to focus.
They were great shots. No, they were really, really good shots. I recommend everybody to go check out the website and Jim's Twitter account because, yeah, you got some really good, you got that zoom in, and we saw Matt, we saw Casey. Did they say hi to the crowd? Did they approach the crowd at any point?
There was a couple of times that they did wave, and there was one shot that I got of Matt Damon, which was hysterical because when I took it, I could see him smiling at me, and I was able to snap that very quickly. He kind of gave me a little like wink grin, which was pretty hilarious. But they were waving. But I mean, you know, you've been around movie sets. I mean, there's so much commotion and chaos going on. And like we were talking about before we went on the air here, this was a scene that they were filming for some sort of winter scene in this movie, The Instigators, because they were dressed up in like winter attire and they were shoveling snow out of the back of freezer trucks. And it was 80 degrees and sunny out, by the way, last Thursday. So it was kind of funny that I felt bad for those crew guys because they were working their butts off, shoveling snow out, and it was hitting the pavement and melting. But yeah, they did wave a bit, and but the scene was very cool. It's funny too. We were talking about just some of the some of the specifics of the scene and some of the aesthetics of it. And I did notice, and you can see this in the shot that I took. Casey Affleck, he's wearing this green Dartmouth sweatshirt, and on his right shoulder, it looks to be like a fake blood stain with a little like insert. And I wonder if that's like he just got shot in the arm or something. I mean, who knows? But yeah, that was pretty much the scene as when I got there. It was cool.
Yeah, the snow thing, it cracks me up because like I know that they have to stick to a certain schedule, so they probably can't pick which days or seasons to shoot in, but that's the Hollywood magic that they have to, you know, turn whatever, they have to work with what they got. And fortunately, they got a lot of snow in, and hopefully it's believable in the movies and during the final product. The awesome part is that, yeah, not only were they at Wollaston Beach, but as I mentioned before, we've seen them in other parts of Quincy, at the Yacht Club over there, also in Boston's North End, and at one of the most famous like bakeries in there. What's the name of that bakery? It's
Bova's Bakery in the North End.
That's a great place that is historic. It's well known, and they closed it up, and that whole area too. I think they may have used it for like I think there was one character because the owner actually shared surveillance footage from inside, showing I guess one of the characters like beating up a cashier box or something like like that.
Sounds like a Boston movie.
Yeah, no, this is great. And again, the one thing that Jamie and I love about this podcast is because we have so much content, so much stuff to talk about. Because, like I said, we are Hollywood East, and because of the state's film tax credit, there's much more incentive to film things over here. And so this is just the latest film with the latest actors. Using our backdrop for their movies, and it's always great to see boys from Boston, Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, come back, because not only people have the adoration of just movie stars in general, but the adoration of local boys who made it and are coming back and putting money back into the economy.
Absolutely. And James, you brought up a good point there when you said, like, they're going into like famous parts of Boston, and like this is, I'm hoping this movie is going to be great. I'm sure it will be. But like when you talk about an authentic spot for like true Bostonians, people from the South Shore. I grew up in Duxbury on the South Shore, about a half hour south of Boston. I was born in Boston. I am a South Shore kid, and like Quincy and Wollaston Beach is kind of like an epicenter of the South Shore. And just to kind of point out like how talented, like you mentioned, like some of these directors are, and the way they're able to shoot. Last week, late last week, it was sunny. It was 80 degrees. We're just coming out of our winter slumber here in New England, and the beach was packed. And so, like, that is a crazy busy road already. So you have state police, like, moving everybody around, and a whole crowded beach down there. And I was thinking of that as I was watching, and I'm like, wow, there's so many people out here. People walking around with, like, it's swim trunks and, bikinis and joggers. So it's like they're going to have to mold that around somehow. And I'm sure they were able to do it brilliantly. But with the snow and everything, I was thinking, I'm like, wow, they'll make this into magic. But it's kind of cool that I'll be able to watch it and go, that looks like the middle of January in New England, but in reality, it was 2 weeks before Memorial Day, and it was like 85 degrees out with the sun and everything.
Yeah, and not to toot our own horn on the Hub on Hollywood, but every week we do give out local casting calls. And so they're always looking for people from the Boston area, from Massachusetts, to be background actors, to give the authenticity. They're looking for that. And so every week we have these new casting calls, including for the Instigators, including for other films and projects. And so we have more stuff coming up in the future. And I'm sure that you or I are going to be sent very soon to another movie set, possibly for the Instigators, or who knows, another film that's just around the corner. Because right now it is warming up, as you mentioned, and this is the time when these movie studios are really cranking out film after film after film. But Jim, thank you so much for joining us here on the Hub on Hollywood. If we have another interaction on the sets or anywhere else, we'd love to have you back on.
James, anytime, man. Thank you.
And a big thank you to WBZ News Radio, Jim McKay. Again, check out his Twitter for those photos of Matt Damon and Casey Affleck filming at Wollaston Beach. And Jamie, one last thing I wanted to talk about the writer's strike is that one big thing that the writers are pushing for, and that the studios have not yet guaranteed, is that they want to guarantee and ensure that the writers will not be replaced with AI, artificial intelligence, because the fear is that if the technology gets better, and right now, there's no way of stopping this new technology from getting better and potentially writing scripts of their own, they can easily negotiate or cut out the writers where they play such a minimal role, and because of that they get paid minimally as well. So that's one thing that we and the industry in general have to adapt to, these new technologies that can literally and are putting some businesses in jeopardy.
It's pretty terrifying, all of the AI stuff that has come out, but you need a human touch overall. Make sure that it just is not garbledy-gook. But still, even so, I don't believe that AI has a place in filmmaking and storytelling, and in particular, telling human stories that touch people.
You mentioned, you need that human aspect, and the funny thing is, Seth Rogen, he actually talked about it too. He said AI can't write good TV. You'd have to shove a lot of weed into that thing for it to be that creative. Like you said, you need that human touch. And so Seth Rogen, even though it is a real potential and potential threat for the industry and for writers in the future. Seth, according to him, it needs that human touch and maybe a little bit of weed in order to make these shows actually good.
Oh my God. Well, look, I can absolutely see where we could have future movies about AI, like more realistically and more modernly, like taking over the world and maybe creating fake content that, manipulates and destroys the world. Like, we got to make a movie about that. Would AI write the movie about AI? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just get very Inception-like and very, I don't want to see any of that, actually.
No one wants to see any of that.
No to AI, yes to human touch. And yes to writers getting paid what they rightfully deserve to bring us the entertainment and the stories that touch our hearts, change our lives, etc., etc. One last thing I wanted to mention, James, it's always so funny to me when they're shooting scenes that are meant to be in the winter but are actually in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And this happens a lot. Or it's meant to be in the summer, but it's actually shot in the winter. And you have got to give props to the people, the actors, to the background artists, because they are either freezing or they are sweating balls. Like, it is hard work.
So eloquently said.
So eloquently. I know, right? I'm just a wordsmith. Yeah, it's amazing. A funny story, when I was pregnant with Desi, my daughter, I was filming a scene just like that where it was winter. Actually, it was 90 degrees outside, and they wanted me to wear a parka. Wanted me to wear this heavy jacket and then, walk into the scene and then walk into a business. And I'm like, I am going to put this jacket on my arm, because if I do not, you are going to have a pregnant woman passed out on the floor here. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting it on.
Yeah.
But it worked out anyway, because I was wearing like yoga pants. It's like I'm walking into a yoga studio. So it's like I took off my jacket and put it on my arm and walked into the...
And they could have even said, like, that lady in the movie who you were playing back in the olden days was also pregnant and she's having hot flashes. And so
exactly.
they could work that into the script.
Look, it works.
Even though that character doesn't say anything or do anything, we could just pretend that she's pregnant also and is running hot right now in the wintertime.
Yeah, those are rough. Those are rough when it's 90 and you're wearing a parka. But anyways, just a shout out of love for anyone and everyone in the craft, and the movie magic and everything that goes into it, because it is hard work. It's not as beautiful and glamorous as the ultimate final product makes it seem.
Yeah. And speaking about the shout out of love, that leads perfectly into our next topic, Pedro Pascal. That guy, who doesn't love him? Well, we have just learned that he will be starring or is in at least negotiations to star in the sequel to Gladiator. So according to Deadline, sources say Pascal is in the final negotiations to join the untitled sequel for Paramount. He's going to be joining the folks like Paul Mescal, who is starring as Lucius, Barry Keoghan. He was in the Banshees of Inisherin, a great actor. Also, Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things is starring in the Ridley Scott sequel, who Ridley Scott is returning to direct as well. I'm a big fan of Gladiator, of Russell Crowe. That's one of those classic movies that you can watch over and over again. And so I'm glad that they are making the sequel, and I'm glad that Pedro Pascal is appearing to be on board.
Pedrito lindo, he's so cute. I mean, just like knowing more about Pedro Pascal and like who he is as a person makes it a little bit harder for me to picture him as a gladiator. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
He's the perfect man for the job, though.
Yeah. He played a character in Game of Thrones,
well,
and it was kind of that same era vibe feel. So I think he could fall right back into that. I could totally see him in the Gladiator-verse.
Yeah, so if you think back to his roles in Game of Thrones, and not only, physicality of that role, but like just the smoldering smexiness of it. He can pull anything off, but just kind of like knowing who he is through like all of these viral interviews and things like that. He's just a little marshmallow. He's just so cute and adorable, and sweet. And I don't know if you heard about his outfit at the Met Gala.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. He was looking good.
Yeah, he was looking great, but there was like a message behind it. Because the theme of this year's Met Gala was Karl Lagerfeld, who's this great designer for Chanel, but who notoriously is misogynistic, homophobic, fatphobic. He's said a lot of kind of terrible things. So
that's interesting. So, why honor him? But yeah, go on.
So Pedro showed up head to toe in Valentino, which is a competitor to Lagerfeld. And he even had little V logos manicured into his middle fingers.
Nice.
He was flipping the bird to fashion, to the industry, and to some of those not so great things that that the old guard stands for, I suppose, in fashion. So this man is just amazing, and he stands for things in such a subtle but powerful and beautiful way. And we love him in everything that he does. So Gladiator, absolutely. He must be, they're going to get him back in the gym and whatnot. I'm interested to see what the story is. Gladiator is one of those movies that's as close to perfect as humanly possible. Yes. So it's got to be a really good script written by really great writers who deserve to get paid. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about some other great stuff and great actors that we love to see, Willem Dafoe. Who doesn't love Willem Dafoe either? Well, apparently, the cast of Beetlejuice 2, they love him so much that he will be joining the sequel along with Jenna Ortega and Michael Keaton. Right now, the film is in production this week. Tim Burton is at the helm directing. The original release in 1988. That's crazy, so long ago. But as we mentioned, Jenna Ortega leading the cast with Michael Keaton, who is reprising his role as Beetlejuice, and Winona Ryder is also coming back. Jenna Ortega will be playing Winona Ryder's daughter in the film. So no word yet on what Willem Dafoe or what the main plot of the sequel is going to be. But I'm a big Beetlejuice fan. I was also a big fan of the animated series that came out after the film. So yeah, I'm glad that the sequel will come back.
And I'm always a fan of bringing back like the original actors from the next chapter. So having Winona Ryder back in the Beetlejuiceverse, is that?
Yeah.
And bringing Jenna Ortega in, like that is so in her wheelhouse. That's so Jenna. Like I'm
hopefully
very
she
excited
doesn't get
for her.
typecast.
Well,
right?
You know what?
Like
she
that
really
dark
likes
goth
it,
look.
though. She really, really likes these kinds of movies, like the horror, the goth. Like
she says that now.
She's really into it. It's very much in line with her personality as well. So I'm happy to see that she's getting more work like this, and they're all fantastic actors. Michael Keaton, did you say?
Michael Keaton reprising his role as Beetlejuice. Yeah,
one of the most underrated. I think one of the most underrated actors out there. Like Michael Keaton can transform in these incredible ways. So stellar cast. Definitely
He's back, baby.
Looking forward to that one. But you know what, James? You know what?
What?
You know what?
What?
Sometimes you can have a really great cast, but things don't work out so well.
Oh, no.
It doesn't really come together. You can have the most phenomenal actors, but sometimes the writing is not quite there.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. And there's a big show that's up on Prime right now that I feel it's a little bit of a miss. And I might be in the minority here. I don't know. But
the suspense is killing me.
Okay, have you seen Citadel?
I have not seen Citadel. I've heard about it. I've seen the publicity and the posters for it.
Oh yeah,
it's like
huge
everywhere.
Publicity. Yeah, up for this one. It's a brand new spy thriller. So basically, the plot is this global spy agency called Citadel has fallen, and the memories of its agents have been erased. And now this powerful Manticore crime syndicate is filling the power vacuum, and they're behind all of these horrible things that are happening all over the world, and the Citadel agents must remember their past and find the strength to fight back, right?
Yeah.
Look, and it's like Citadel is like this organization of super spies. They're super spies for good. And, okay, look, cast, got Richard Madden, who
Your boy.
my boy. If you guys had have listened to the Hub on Hollywood, we had an episode where we're talking about who should be the next James Bond. Absolutely, Richard Madden was my number one. We've got Priyanka Chopra, Stanley Tucci. We've got it's a great cast. However, okay, Rotten Tomatoes has this at 53%. I really have to agree with that score. They're beautiful people who look beautiful on screen, sumptuous cinematography and whatnot. The story, James, the story, so cliche. And I'm so sad to say that. The storylines are cliche.
Is there just not a lot of surprise?
No, it feels very formulaic. The characters are sort of two-dimensional, and it's like what we've seen in every other spy drama, but like less interesting, with less depth, and the stakes, like you don't feel the stakes. Like you don't feel like, oh, anybody could die at any moment, because it's like, no, the good guys have to win, and they've got like this journey to go on. It's like it feels predictable and cliche storylines, cliche characters.
So not even these beautiful faces can like
and don't
push
get me wrong,
the story along.
They are gorgeous and great to look at. Then they open their mouths and say their lines, and it's like, no. And what kills me the most, okay? And I really don't want to like poo-poo on this show too much, but here's what kills me the most and what makes me like irate. Like, I think that this show could have been like 25% better if they had just let Richard Madden speak in his real accent.
Oh, no. What kind of accent is he using?
For some reason, it made him American. And he has this like weird, choppy, all over the place American accent. And it's like one episode he sounds like he's from Chicago, and now he's from New Jersey, and now he's from California. Like, the accent...
I need to watch this now.
His American accent is like super inconsistent. It's very distracting. The man is beautiful. He has a beautiful accent. Let him use his damn accent. It's a spy driller. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it should make sense that he has that a British international accent or Scottish or I'm so sorry. I apologize. I don't know exactly the exact origin of his beautiful accent. I just know that it is amazing. And why aren't they letting him use it? Like, that would make the show a whole 25% better if they just let him be him. And instead I have to like hear this nails on the chalkboard kind of accent that is all over the place and completely takes me out of it immediately. I'm sorry, Richard.
Oh, goodness. Well, he is Scottish, if it means anything. But
Scottish. There we go. Scottish accent. You delete what I said before. His beautiful Scottish accent. If he does become 007, if he does become the next James Bond, no problem. He can use his accent. The writing is much better, presumably. But unfortunately, I have to give Citadel on Amazon Prime like 4 out of 10 shirtless Kylo Rens. It's I was really, really hoping for more. Also, very beautiful cinematography. But there's this one camera angle where they have the camera and it's just like spinning around and like you start upside down and then you come right side up and like you're spinning in circles. Very creative, very beautiful. But they use it way too much. It's like every other scene is spinning camera shot. I'm like, I get it. I know it's a nice shot. I can't see. I'm getting dizzy. It's not funny. It's not fun anymore because they just overused it. I'm so sorry. I really, really, really wanted to like this one more. I'm really picky, so maybe you'll enjoy. It's got great action sequences, great cinematography, like I said. But yeah, for me, the story is just not there, and I'm so sorry. So sorry.
You heard it here. Citadel is more like Citadel.
No.
But if you are a fan of this, let us know down in the comments down below. Let us know what you think of Citadel if you have seen it. Let us know what you think about the casting of Pedro Pascal in Gladiator and Willem Dafoe in Beetlejuice, as well as, your general thoughts on the writer's strike, about how it may or is affecting the local industry, and your thoughts on artificial intelligence and its role, its impact on films and TV shows and everything in the future. We are on all the social medias at Hub on Hollywood. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Please leave us a like, leave us a comment. If you are listening to us on any of the major podcasting streaming services like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, leave us a 5-star review. But yeah, Jamie, jam-packed show. We do have casting calls, not many, but we do have a few after the show, so be sure to stick around with us. But yeah, I think that's a wrap, Jamie.
Wow, yeah, we covered a lot of ground, so stick around for those casting calls. But if you're not interested in those, we will say bye-bye. I'm Jamie.
I'm James. See you next week.
And here we are, James, in the part of the show where we get you in the movies, and we appreciate you joining us here on the Hub on Hollywood for our local casting call. And as we talked about, the theme of this episode, the writer's strike, potentially putting the brakes on some of these projects that were slated to be filming here soon in New England. So light on the casting calls this week, but we are starting with Boston Casting. They are responsible for the major projects, the two major projects that are shooting right now, which are The Instigators, starring Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, and The Perfect Couple, Out on the Cape, starring Nicole Kidman. They're also handling The Good Burger 2, which is coming to Rhode Island.
All right.
So Boston Casting is the place you want to be. Go ahead and go to bostoncasting.com. Sign up there for a free profile and get all of the email alerts that you need for those opportunities. And on that Good Burger train, Boston Casting specifically right now is looking for 6-month-old black twins. They're going to be shooting in late May and into June in Rhode Island. If this sounds like your babies, are they about 6 months old or appear to be? Submit a current photo, phone number, email, address, and age. In the subject line, write 6-month-old babies / your name, and you're going to send that to goodburger2extras@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, yeah, like we said, we don't have that many this week of casting calls, but hopefully things ramp up. Hopefully the writer's strike wraps up as well, and that if it is affecting the local casting calls, hopefully that we see a reverse trend of this. But yeah, again, thank you so much for joining us on the Hub on Hollywood. We appreciate you listening and sharing us, telling your friends about us, and letting your other actor friends and family members learn about the Hub on Hollywood, because it's through the casting calls that we're trying to help spotlight the local talents and get them out there and get them discovered.